Maybe you like cooking. Maybe you don't. Either way, the new Blue Apron is for you. Because along with our classic meal kits, we're offering new pre-made and one-pan meals to help you get dinner on the table fast. And now there's no subscription needed, so you can just order and enjoy. Do delicious food your way. Shop 100 plus meals at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
This wasn't Inter versus Barcelona at Camp Nou. Weren't the stats saying that United only had 34% possession? Denied by Mourinho?
No. My stats guy says 44% possession. I don't know why he's a Russian mobster in this little skit.
If he was, you'd believe him, wouldn't you?
Yes. Whether or not the bus was parked, what is undeniable is that we played with a back 7 for substantial periods of that game, or at least a back 6 for a lot of it, and then Fellaini dropped in to make it a back 7 at one point.
Yeah, well, tuck the full-backs in, and then Rashford and Young on the other side augmented, didn't they? Was it Young? Yes.
Yeah, the extra fullbacks.
Yeah, well, I mean, fair enough, I suppose. Actually, I thought defensively, United were very sound. Liverpool had 9 shots and only 2 on target, of which 2 were brilliant saves by David De Gea. Did a very good job of restricting a side that scored joint most goals in the league this season. And Mourinho's analysis of exactly what he needed to do in order to stop Liverpool creating chances was spot on too. He wasn't going to allow his 2 guys to play out from the back, so they did play quite direct. And they realised that, realised it's obvious that Liverpool play with a high press, so they wanted to avoid that. Although, look, for all this talk of bus parking, Liverpool actually picked a more defensive team than they have been doing this season, So they played with essentially 2 holding midfielders, which they don't normally. And Lallana was dropped and Emre Can came in. So, both sides showing each other a bit too much respect, perhaps.
Yeah, although Lallana was coming back from an injury, wasn't he? So it wasn't just a selection thing.
Yeah, and he's a bit shit.
I'm not sure I agree with that, ultimately. I think he's pretty good, isn't he? He's pretty good.
Well, he's probably better than I am at football, but then I'm 40 and wasn't very good to start with.
It wasn't much of an exciting affair, but there was some merit. Like, there were periods when United pressed really aggressively, which was interesting, and that was really effective. Especially like a 20-minute spell around the later periods of the first half. That's not the beginning, not the end, the middle. That's what it's called, isn't it? The middle of the first half, where Liverpool really couldn't get anything going because United were pretty aggressive, which was something we would see magnified several fold against Fenerbahce. And it was United's high press that was really effective. Massive tactical decision, of course, was, I would say, like, when he wasn't playing a 6-2-1-1, it was a 4-1-1, really, wasn't it? It was a little asymmetric because Young was playing on the left and Rashford was playing on the right, and Young was naturally more inclined to be defensive and got forward less often. But it was definitely Pogba behind Zlatan. Pogba's first outing at number 10 since probably Feyenoord, right?
Yeah, and he didn't play like a traditional number 10 by any means. He was perhaps further forward than he has been in most games this season, but he's not as if he was foot on the ball and the playmaker in the team. That's not really how he plays in a number 10, He's not a number 10. Anyway, we know exactly where he's good, which is where he played for Juve, which is a number 8 pushing forward. And maybe we'll actually get that one day if United have a defensive midfielder in the team, but
we literally did on Thursday.
Yeah, well, true. But at Anfield, we had another, talking of defensive midfielders, sort of. We had another very impressive performance, perhaps not from Pogba, but from his midfield partner Ander Herrera, who was excellent once again.
Yeah, this is why I would say that Pogba was definitely playing as positionally as a 10, because you had Fellaini and Herrera both behind him, both very good. Herrera, absolutely outstanding. Those numbers don't lie, do they? You don't see players making 11 interceptions very often in games. He definitely had an everywhere on the pitch feel to his performance. But Fellaini was very good as well. Very disciplined, very sensible and careful use of the ball. No one was happy to see him in the starting 11, of course. But he made very few mistakes, apart from getting offside from a really good Ashley Young free kick.
Right, and inevitably got himself booked late on for a dumb tackle. Yeah, I mean, you said careful and sensible with his passing. That's true. I looked at his passing map and I thought, it was very generous how some of these passes were ranked as forward passes. I was pretty sure. I mean, because square is, within a couple of feet forward. That's square, right? Basically, he only played one forward pass in the whole game. Basically.
Yeah.
Ish.
I mean, there was that stat at 40 minutes that Squawka tweeted that Pogba had only played 2 forward passes in the first 40 minutes. And we have to talk about Zlatan, don't we? Because United had 2 really good moments, one each for Zlatan and Pogba. The first was when the keeper really scuffed his out ball, his pass out, and Pogba nicked it. And instead of doing something with it himself, he tried to slide it through to an obviously offside Zlatan, which is a terrible piece of decision making. Then a few minutes later, Pogba came up with an absolutely stunning ball, which I'm reluctant to say that Zlatan should have scored because as there's been lots of argument this week about what should have scored actually constitutes, but he definitely would have been very disappointed with what happened with his header back across the 6-yard box.
Should have scored, shouldn't he? Yeah, he's a bit off the boil. Let's be honest. I mean, he's got 6 in 12 games or whatever, but it's he's not playing very well, and he's got 1 in his last
7.
Yeah, right. There you go. So it's not the Zlatan of old. Can I get my prediction back when I said he wouldn't get 20 goals this season?
This is the flip-floppiest prediction for many a year.
I feel I may have flip-flopped on that one a bit too quickly. So I'm flip-flopping back, as is my right.
It's funny though, because as you said against whoever it was we played before, Stoke and Leicester, his all-round game was very good in both of those games, and the numbers back that up. But his all-round game against Liverpool was completely terrible. He looked tired. He
came too deep. I mean, he did a Rooney, and he kept coming into midfield, and that's definitely not what United needed at the time.
Absolutely, and the few times when there was a through ball played, you just thought how different that could have been with Martial up front. That game, it didn't call for Zlatan that game, really, that system. I don't know if we can ever really play Zlatan up front when we're playing, when they are literally, and it's not an exaggeration, this back 6 thing, it's not a joke, a straight line of 6 players across the 18-yard box several times in that game, not a one-off incident.
Mourinho, after the game, talked about, he said he was going to put Rashford at number 10, which was fine. I'd have put him up front, right, just to stretch the game a little bit, but you could have actually played on the break. But he said he was going to put him at number 10, and then he got cramp and decided not to, and brought Rooney on and basically just decided to take a draw at that point. And he was very honest about that, which I suppose is fair enough. When you want to hobble your team by bringing Rooney into it, then you've got to accept your fate, haven't you? And a draw was it. And look, I think before the game, given the relative form of the two teams, a draw wouldn't have been terrible,
no,
would it? It's not
good.
a bad point. Yeah. It's, maybe United weren't the moral victors in this.
Which is something, of course, Mourinho doesn't care about at all. I did think quite a few times during that game, so this is what it's like to support a Jose Mourinho team that plays this kind of way. And I did think it was interesting. A lot of United fans trotting out the lines that Chelsea fans might have used over the years about, no, it's fine because ... And ultimately it was fine. And there were periods of very good attacking intent. And if Zlatan had done better with that chance, and if Pogba had taken his moment a little more as he did against Fenerbahce, could have been a very different affair. I don't think that game was a disaster by any means. And I tell you what is extremely good about that game, the biggest positive about that game, is how it compared to the performance against City at home, when it almost feels like this was them having learned how to play this way. because it was very good execution of that type of performance from United. And if we've got Mourinho in charge, we need the team to be able to do that because he's going to want them to.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, sure. Yes, very, very compact in terms of the defence, and then pull those two wide players back to augment to make that back six, and did sensible things. Great. I mean, of course, United fans want more than that. We want to be able to go to Anfield and take it to Liverpool and beat them. This is not a Liverpool side that is going to win the league. I'm sure of that. Although, said that, I was pretty sure that City would be romping away, and they're definitely not either. So maybe we're going to get another season of lots of inconsistent teams. But, it's not like it's an outstanding Liverpool side. It's a team that finished 20 points off the Premier League title last season, has augmented a bit this summer, but not outstandingly. It's decent, and United went and parked the bus for most of the second half. So definitely United fans want more than that. We expect more than that. We expect a better United side than this, but maybe it's just part of the journey towards being that.
That's definitely what it felt like. I think I expected maybe a little more. I don't know. I felt that you didn't seem when the game was going on. You didn't seem that annoyed by what Mourinho was doing. I was a bit annoyed by what Mourinho was doing, and then kind of afterwards sort of chilled out about it a bit and thought, actually, it's pretty reasonable under the circumstances. Not ideal, but ...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to rationalise it, but when you appoint Mourinho, this is what you get. So I actually don't buy the, point's a point. It's only about the numbers. I like good football. I think football's about entertainment. For Mourinho, football's about winning.
Yeah.
Or not losing. So, fine, and you just accept that. And there's some cognitive dissonance in that, isn't there?
There is.
But you can't fuss about it now. It's not like we haven't seen 15 years of Mourinho doing this.
No, absolutely not. And I did sort of burst out laughing at one point, just the thought that, like, the kind of somewhat romantic notion, United will change him. Like, no. United definitely will not change Jose Mourinho. This is he is going to do what he does in big games, and and that's nonsense anyway, isn't it? Because United didn't change Van Gaal over 2 years, and definitely didn't change David Moyes, who was incompetent coming into the job. Absolutely, but yeah. So it was quite funny at points. It was very funny afterwards in the interview when Mourinho was like, I don't think Liverpool are the seventh wonder, eighth wonder of the world or anything. It was good. It's a good little Liverpool dig. Important to get that in under the circumstances.
Yeah. So one other notable thing, we talked about defending. I have an apology to make, I think. So I've had to go at Antonio Valencia on this show many a time. That was one of the best fullback performances I've seen from a United player in years.
Yeah.
He was absolutely superb. And that last man tackle, when he had to get everything right, and he absolutely got everything right, probably to save United the game, was one of the best tackles I've seen in that sort of circumstance for many a year too.
Yeah, I wrote a column about it after that game for UMaxit saying he's just a right back now. We just have to accept it. I think I mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago there was just a moment against Stoke, which was nothing. It was nowhere near as dramatic as that last-ditch tackle, but it was just a moment where he didn't foul the player on a counter-attack. He delayed a second and then put his foot in, and it was like an example of his maturity as a defender. And that was immense because, in that split second, he makes an incredibly bold decision. When Coutinho plays the through ball, Valencia has to decide he's going to go for it, and he's a long way behind at that point. But not only does he go for it, he goes for it and gets the ball and doesn't give away a foul. It's absolutely brilliant execution, and also another really outstanding performer in that game was Eric Bailly. Brilliant again at centre back, and we are really going to miss him when he goes to the Africa Cup of Nations. We play Liverpool again while he's away. Yeah,
it's true, and I think he's one of the reasons that United's defence has come together, been more secure than perhaps it might otherwise have been. He's been excellent this season. Or the other thing that's also helped United's defence is moving Blint out of central defence and into left back, where he's just a much better player at left back, and he was very good against Liverpool as well. He's going to have a fight on his hands now, though, because Luke Shaw came on late in that game as a sub, very, very late in that game, and then played all the whole game against Fenerbahce and looks fit again.
Yeah, very interesting battle, and you wonder if it'll be a bit of a horses for courses thing from Mourinho with those two. But yeah, all in all, you know, it was a bit disappointing and a bit, I don't know, emotionally dispiriting to see United play that way, but not a disaster, and we better get used to it because it's not going to be the last time it happens. And there is plenty to enjoy from that kind of performance. And I think the people that were saying we weren't parking the bus were arguing that it wasn't like we conceded shot after shot after shot and, you know, we're throwing bodies in front of defenders, throwing defenders' bodies in front of the ball. In fact, that Valencia thing was probably the only last-ditch thing that happened that wasn't the De Gea saves. No,
United defended with the tactics, right? So, yes, they played six across the back, but they were very smart through midfield as well.
Yeah.
You know, they got three midfielders in there to cut off the supply line. And you know, Sturridge had a very disappointing game for him, although, you know, he has quite a lot of those, doesn't he? But that was a lot to do with, you know, how United defended. I didn't think that Jan Henderson and Coutinho were that good through central midfield. You know, United were very effective at stifling Liverpool's attacking play.
And then when Liverpool did make the breakthrough, the one real chance that they got, both those De Gea saves were absolutely incredible. That first one, it's like watching it on TV almost feels normal, and definitely watching it in slow motion almost feels like a normal human thing that you could do. But when you watch that thing at full speed from a kind of close-in camera angle and you realise how late he saw it, and the sheer elasticity of thought and physicality to get that low that quick and get such a firm hand on that ball.
Right.
He's one of Manchester United's greatest ever goalkeepers.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And then, you know, Coutinho with the curler,
yeah.
He scored a few of those, hasn't he? He thought it was in.
I think everyone did. It makes that brilliant noise that De Gea is so good at generating, where the crowd, you know, you hear the crowd celebrating the goal and then realising De Gea saved it. That kind of noise that De Gea saves do.
Yeah, well, that was Liverpool. Decent point in a tough game. And then on to Fenerbahce. And United, you kind of feel United needed a good performance at some point. You know, this was a team that's not having a great season by any means, although was top of this particular Europa League group after a couple of games, but not doing well in the league. And, you know, someone had to get battered eventually, didn't they? And they did, at least in the first half.
4 goals in 2 of the last 4 home games at United, and that Stoke game could easily have been that as well. So, yeah, not unusual for United recently to be free-flowing in attack at Old Trafford. What an absolute party of a football match, almost from start to finish. A joyous occasion. There was so the first 10 minutes, a bit of feeling out, but again, that really aggressive pressing, very high up the pitch, United were pressing Fenerbahce. You could see they were feeling their oats, and that did start with Rooney, who, you know, for all his many faults, he will do that. I did have a thought about the starting 11, which is that this is the first time in the Europa League. It's not like he's played terrible teams in the Europa League, but this is the first time where you would say that everyone in that team, bar Rooney, is a reasonable first choice option in that position. Shaw at left back, Darmian at right back. They're not the current first choice, but both entirely reasonable choices. Same with Carrick, and everywhere else it's players that have frequently played. So there were not too many O-rings in that game.
No. You made a bit of a mistake there, Paul. You said United scored 4. I'm looking at the scorers. United clearly scored 5.
Yes, many people making the 5-0 gag over the last few hours, last 24 hours. I liked your version of that was good, where you did match ratings for all the United players and included Van Persie.
Yes. Oh, it was. I didn't mind that. Did you? I didn't mind it.
I was delighted. Legitimately over the moon.
So was Fergie and his best mate, Big Sam. as well, which was interesting company for Fergie to take to Old Trafford. Yeah.
I loved it. I loved seeing the two of them. Just like, that's the first time I've seen Big Sam smiling since it all happened. And you can just imagine Fergie's like, come on, son, we'll give you the time of your life. We'll have a lovely time here.
Yeah. Hopefully Mourinho's not going anywhere, because Fergie would be recommending him for the United job, undoubtedly. So anyway, to the game, and what was it? 3 in the first half. A couple of penalties, both solid penalties. I have to say, watching Pogba run up, I was 100% convinced he was going to miss that stupid run up.
Nobody on earth thought that Paul Pogba was going to score that goal. Not a single earthbound citizen believed that goal was going to go in the back of the net. That shot was going to go in the back of the net. Between the narrative around him, the transfer fee, and then that run up, you were like, oh no, what are you doing? What are you doing, son? Oh, it's all fine. It's all fine. It's all fine. He scored. It's fine.
Yeah. Struck it pretty cleanly, and then Martial took the second one, and a very odd explanation from Mourinho saying that basically passing this one, but that Pogba didn't fancy it.
Well, it's
for the second one.
It's much stranger than that, because as Michael Owen absolutely freaking out on BT Sport. Do not like watching Michael Owen talk about Manchester United, but this was very entertaining indeed, because his little brain was like exploding with confusion at the idea that Rooney somehow hadn't taken the penalties. If you're the centre forward, you take the penalties. Oh, it sounds like a Harry Enfield stereotype character, but if you're a centre forward, you take the penalties, because Pogba, the idea was that Pogba was supposed to be the first choice penalty taker, according to Mourinho, but Pogba had said he'd asked Rooney if he could take it, and Rooney had said yes, even though Rooney was supposed to be the first choice penalty taker. But then that does not explain why it was Martial instead of Rooney that took the second one. Very odd, although as we know, he's a terrible penalty taker, so it's a good thing,
yeah.
But
his record's at about 60% or something, so he's missed plenty, Rooney. I don't know why United would have him on penalties.
No.
And it's not as if he's in good form, because he wasn't very good against Fenerbahce.
Did he?
He did all right, ran around, He started the press, as you said, but not much apart from that, although he is credited with an assist.
For the Lingard goal.
Yeah.
The penalties, the two penalties worthy of mention. Absolutely sumptuous pass from Carrick to Mata for the first one. Absolutely,
and lovely soft touch.
Great. And an absolutely sumptuous pass from Mata to Martial for the second. You got very enthusiastic about that one on WhatsApp, Ed.
I think I called it football 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. It was
good.
Lovely pass, yeah. I'd give Mata about 9.5 out of 10 for his control. It wasn't Berbatov-esque, was it? I mean, Berber would not have let it fall, because actually the slightest miscontrol meant that Mata had to check back, and that allowed him to then check back into the goal afterwards and get the penalty. I wonder if his touch had been perfect, he might not have been fouled.
Yeah, absolutely. Although that defender did seem pretty keen to foul him under any possible circumstances. The foul on Martial was ridiculous. Like, what on earth they were doing? I suppose he just thought, he's definitely going to score here, isn't he? So we should probably foul him at this point. But, yeah. They weren't very impressive in general, Fenerbahce. But I think United did make them look even more unimpressive than they were. And the third goal, I mean, easily, I don't know if it's the goal of the season. I can't think of all the goals this season, but it's got to be right up there. Rooney does brilliantly on the right to win.
After shanking a through ball, it comes straight back to him. Well, comes straight back out to the defender, and he does really well to tackle the player and cut it back in.
And then he cuts it back in a little bit behind Lingard, to be fair. But I'm glad that Rooney cut it back in a little bit behind Lingard, because Lingard's touch to control that ball is definitely the highlight of the season so far for me. That touch was out of this world. It's like he kills the ball dead with the back of his heel, spins, and then not only lays the ball off to Pogba, but lays it off at such an angle that Pogba can get maximum purchase on it. It was a really outstanding bit of forward play from Lingard, and then he scored.
Right, yeah, and he didn't go straight back to Pogba. He gave Pogba plenty of space to strike the ball. Yeah, lovely.
And that's that football intelligence, isn't it? So we have this incredible technical execution in the control, and then the split-second decision-making, because it's definitely deliberate the way he lays it off. You can see, especially from an angle from behind.
Yep. And then he followed that up just after half-time with a stunning strike of his own. That's all he does, isn't it? You know, he fluffs the easy ones and scores the stunners.
Yeah. And he's a really good footballer. He's better than I think either of us have given him credit for, I think. I think we have to say the evidence is starting to stack up now that he's got some stuff in his locker that we wouldn't have given him credit for, I think.
Well, he can hit a clean ball, which he did. Rifled in, no chance for the keeper. And you're right, he's a very intelligent footballer, and I'm quite sure that Mourinho likes that. I'm sure he appreciates him. And he did well for England in his 2 games for England recently as well. Although, you know, you don't want to taint him with that, do you, really?
I didn't watch them on boycotting it after their disgraceful treatment of Big Sam. Talking of players that Mourinho likes, one that Mourinho definitely does not seem to like, Henrik Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, still not in the squad,
odd.
even though Mourinho talked about him as being fit in the pre-match presser. So, what's going on?
Something.
I mean, you know, he's willing to play Depay, who, you know, not doing a lot with his career now, is he?
So
Poor old
sad.
Memphis. It is really sad because the talent is massive. But yeah, he's willing to play him, and he's even willing to give Marcus Rojo a game, which he did for the second half.
But that was only because he wanted Van Persie to get a goal and he didn't want to make it too obvious.
It's some kind of charity thing, I think, isn't it?
I mean, he's bad, isn't he, Rocco? He's really bad. He's really,
And
really bad.
on the other end of the scale, he gave Fosu Mensah some time in the second half in midfield.
Yeah,
and, you know,
good.
I'm not sure this will be his final best position. I think he's going to be a really high-class central defender. But he looks extremely composed in there, of course. You know, you switch on beast mode, don't you, when he comes into the game. And he's I can't remember who it was, knocked one of the Fenerbahce midfielders just off the ball, just flattened him.
It was very funny.
Yeah.
It was a definite highlight. And his composure, though, really noticeable on the ball. Like, obviously, he's kind of very hard to knock off the ball, but there was one point where he had the ball under quite some pressure. Just absolute proper Dutch composure on the ball. Just easily kind of lays it off and no problem. Like, no flies on him whatsoever, just not bothered at all. But yeah, Mkhitaryan, I don't know what's going on, but it seems like something's going on. And what's really a bit worrying about this is Mkhitaryan is not long recovered from a massive crisis of confidence. His first season under Jurgen Klopp was kind of perceived as a disaster because he really lost confidence in his own abilities. And, you know, he got it back and especially under Tuchel really thrived. But it's a bit of a worry if Mourinho is going to kind of break his spirit. We've got a Shinji Kagawa situation on our hands, I think.
It's not good. I mean, how many times can you spend like 30 million plus on an attacking player and not play them and it not work out, you know? It's not good. So, you know, in Memphis and Mkhitaryan, United got a big problem. And
the thing is, there's two such different categories because Memphis was an expensive young player. That's always a gamble. Mkhitaryan was bought in the prime of his career as a kind of as close to a sure bet out of everyone that signed in the summer, apart from maybe Pogba. You'd say Mkhitaryan was definitely the one that was all going to be fine. There was an obvious.
Well, he's 27 and he's had 3 years in the Bundesliga. Sure, there's some adjustment, but yeah, it's he should hit the ground pretty much running, and he's been unlucky with injuries and fitness, I guess. Now after saying that he was fit, not bringing him into the squad at all in a game that's, you know,
winnable.
Clearly United's third or fourth priority this season. It was a bit concerning.
Yeah, definitely. Memphis, someone tweeted at me, we found the new nanny and his name is Memphis. And it just made me think that is such an insult to Nani's Manchester United career. Nani was electric for United many times, including in some massive games. And okay, the last season and a half of his time at the club was a disaster. But before that, you know, Nani's United career outstrips Memphis's by a factor of a very big number, doesn't it?
Well, there were a couple of campaigns where Nani put up some great numbers, you know, 15 goals, 15 assists sort of thing, you know. And doing well again, Nani. He got the move from Fenerbahce to Valencia this summer. So back at a decent side.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is the kind of level that Memphis is going to end up at because there's no way back for him at United.
It doesn't seem so, does it?
No, it just doesn't make sense. There's too many players that are ahead of him in his own position, and he doesn't have that positional flexibility. He's going to play off the left of a 4-3-3 basically, or else. And we're not going to play a 4-3-3, and we've got Martial. He's in trouble. In fact, January move wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, so United's Europa League campaign's back on track, right? For all of you hoping that we'd be knocked out, so we wouldn't have to play this crap, it looks like that's probably not going to happen.
Well, I don't know, because we've got 2 away games in the second half of the group fixtures, and we haven't won away in Europe since the 26th of August 2015 against Club Brugge, since when we've played 6 games away from home in Europe, and I think we got 2 draws out of that lot and lost 4. So, qualification...
Yeah, mind you, it is at Fenerbahce, and they're not good, and at Zorya, who are not good either.
Yeah, well, the teams that have been not good that have either beaten or drawn with us include CSKA Moscow and probably better than that, but FC Midtjylland, Liverpool. We've played some clunkers in the mix.
Yeah, definitely that Liverpool one. Yeah. So where do United go from here? It's Mourinho now got that win. Is Mourinho back to playing sort of 8 changes in the Europa League for the next fixture?
I don't know. It was a very, very... It kind of made being in the Europa League all worthwhile, that game. 71,000 official attendance, not that much below that by what it looked like in the ground. A few less than that, obviously, but, a record-breaking attendance for a group stage. And a huge part of that was, of course, the appeal of people seeing Robin van Persie in the flesh again. And his send-off was absolutely delightful. Every time they had a corner and he took it, that he got the kind of, the Beckham treatment, right? The fans in the corner standing up and applauding him when he went over and got his name sung. And then when he scored his goal, a ground-wide standing ovation for an opposition striker at Old Trafford. Not something that happens all that often. And Fergie looked delighted.
He did, indeed. Yeah. So that's Europa League. There's a decent game at the weekend, isn't there?
Yeah. We don't know when this is coming out, so that might be just about to kick off as you finish listening to this. So we'll do a little preview at the end of the show. But before that, I guess we should take some questions, right?
Sure, fire away.
At SpecialK_2311 says, has Ander Herrera improved this season, or was he always this good?
He's always been a good player, and I think for most of his United career, he's just not really had a consistent run in the side. And he seems to take a little while to get going, doesn't he? So he's come into the side and had some very poor games, having not been in the team. And then he's out and then he's in, and he's been moved around. He's played at 10, he's played at 8, he's now playing at 6, he's played wide right. So he's always been a good player. He's now really applying it in a position that isn't his natural one.
No, but that he can clearly do. Rob Dawson from Manchester Evening News made the point after the Fenerbahce game that game was kind of good news for Herrera in a way, because it just shows how important he is that he was rested ahead of Chelsea. He's first name on the team sheet status is what Dawson said, and I think that's about right. Maybe not first name, but right up there in automatic starters, which is where he should have been ever since he arrived, because he's improving this season and he's applying himself really well, and there'll be dips of form, of course there will, but I just think he's an excellent player. Just a little shout to jkhan_16, who wrote a really good thing about how we didn't park the bus. Some of the stuff we've covered with a load of stats in it. It was an interesting shout on that Liverpool game, so thank you for that. At Monsieur_RJ says he's bracing himself for my emotional 2-minute monologue on Robin van Persie's goal. The thing is, honestly, seeing Van Persie come back really did get me quite badly. I felt very, very emotional about that, because just seeing him with his face and his little grey hair, and his big smile, and talking about coming home, and he talked about, like, if Ferguson was still the manager, he might still be there. You literally can't run anymore, Robin, so I'm not sure that would have worked, but still, just just emotional and delightful. And when he scored, it was very fitting, and it was lovely to see how much respect he still had, and how what happened in 2014-15 and 15-16, or no, 13-14, 15-14-15, didn't affect the way he was perceived, because 12-13 was so special.
Right, and we all know that David Moyes ruined him.
Yeah. And then Van Gaal jumped up and down on the nails in his coffin, singing a Dutch song about how Van Gaal is better than Van Persie or something. Something
like that, yeah. I think the club probably owe him an official apology or something like that, you know? You signed up for Fergie, you got a year, and then we gave you Moyes.
They finally acknowledged his existence on their Twitter account for the first time since he left. Never got an official goodbye, but he got a kind of big thanks for the memories video and a lot of Van Persie related content on that social. It was good. Dr. Marvin at Borkabijit says, "Are we back to being good now?"
Yeah, well, it depends on the week, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely better than Fenerbahce. At Bruce Mallon says, "Will Rooney be shipped out to MLS in January or at the end of the season?"
No, probably neither. I mean, he's got around about 40 million on his contract. I don't think there's an MLS franchise that wants to spend that kind of money.
No, it's
even as a designated player, or they're the ones that they can pay more money to. I don't see it.
Although, like, he would tear it up in MLS. He really would. Anyway, yeah, because you give Rooney half an hour on the ball and he's fine.
Yeah. But as Jose said, so's he.
How good or bad, asks at Clint Thrasher, of an idea, would a 4-4-2 be with this United team?
Bad most of the time, right? So, I suppose you could play Pogba in a 4-4-2 as the number 8 with the right kind of defensive midfielder alongside him. But United are going to be outnumbered in midfield in most games.
Yes, I agree. I think you just can't do it anymore now. If you were going on a desert island, asks at Dantastic 1987, but could only take De Gea, Herrera or Mata with you, who would you take? When Mata was asked which of the other two he would take, he said at a push he'd have to say De Gea because Herrera would just talk way too much. I think I would definitely take Juan Mata out of those. I think De Gea will stop coconuts from falling on your head, obviously. And Herrera would be jolly good company. But, Mata, you could write poems together and discuss the meaning of life and what it really meant to be stuck on this desert island. And I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Who would you take out of the three of them?
Oh, I think it's Juan Mata, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, Herrera would definitely be my second choice because I would like to talk about him, but I think he would just talk about football a lot.
He is a passionate man when it comes to football.
He is.
And, David De Gea's got some dodgy taste in music, both from his girlfriend and his actual music taste.
Yeah, absolutely. At Gary_1105 says, is Jose being a little indulgent playing Zlatan for 90 minutes in every Premier League game? Do we need to worry about his recent form?
Well, per the conversation earlier, yes, because he's not playing that well and not scoring goals. And he looks the fact that he's 35, basically. So that's a bit worrying. We've got some good options, though, right? So, if this continues, I think Jose has shown that there are no untouchables in his team.
He said as much, didn't he? He said he had untouchables at Chelsea the first time around, but he hasn't got any at United, which was interesting.
Fair enough, because Rashford and Martial would do a very good job up there if Zlatan doesn't come good.
Yeah, at True Man United fan asks whether we think Rooney deserves a shot in the centre-forward position over Ibrahimovic, and I just think it would be ridiculous to pick Rooney over Martial or Rashford at that spot.
Yeah, see performance against Fenerbahce.
At Gary J. Matthews says, is modern football failing in its role as a distraction from existential angst? I mean, I think, to be fair, the level of existential angst has reached a level to which it's not fair to just expect football to sort it out. I think this one's not on football.
It's not, and if you look at the viewing figures at the moment, they're something like 20% down over last season. Early in the season, of course, but maybe there's burnout approaching. I mean, it's hard not to be able to watch a football game, isn't it? There's stuff on all the time. I subscribe to a online service of dubious legality, Well, it's very legal. It is very legal if you're in a country that is not the UK.
But isn't that's surely got to be a big reason why viewing figures are down? Are fewer people watching football, or are they just watching it in a way that doesn't get recorded?
Well, quite. But I can watch almost any game from any of the leagues anywhere, including Bulgarian third division.
How much of that are you taking advantage of?
Not a lot of the Bulgarian third division, gotta say, you know.
Ken Early's wrote a really good article, I think it was in the Irish Times, about this very subject, and he was talking about, of course, viewing figures are down. You don't even really watch football. You just watch the 20 seconds of the best bit of the game that everyone shares on Twitter while you're looking at your phone watching the football.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose that, you know, every second screen's true, or 4 or 5 screens in if you're a tech nerd like me.
I have to say, this season I've been trying to make a point of, like, on the occasions when I've not been able to go to the games, definitely for at least the first half, just keeping my phone off and away from me and actually really watching the game and absorbing it. And I found it much, much more enjoyable than that kind of half watching that you get.
Yeah. I do most of the time during games. I generally don't tweet during the game because I want to watch the football. United games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. The rest of them doesn't count. Do you think, I think this is an interesting question, asks at Cryptic Android, Michael Carrick could or should have a bigger role in the first team squad? He's played twice this season against not great opposition, Northampton and Fenerbahce, but both times he's been absolutely outstanding. And it seems to me like he's being a little underutilised.
Well, perhaps, but I'm not sure I believe that his legs are still there for the Premier League.
Right. So you think just in games when United are not going to be under any pressure at all?
Well, you know, I guess you find out if you play him in a tougher game, and I certainly wouldn't play him in anything other than a 3-man midfield. You know, and perhaps he would be able to free Ander Herrera and Pogba for more attacking duties.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you'd lose Juan Mata.
And nobody wants that, not even on the desert island. We talked about previewing the Chelsea game, but there's another game that's going to happen before we next record one of these. And it's a biggie. So we're playing Chelsea and Manchester City in the next few days. Bit of a worrying set of fixtures potentially. Could be pretty tricky. We could be recording a We're Really Terrible Again podcast in a week.
Could do, yeah. Well, you know, the City game is the League Cup game, right? So,
yes.
Will United play a full side? I'm not sure. I mean, Mourinho didn't last time out at Northampton.
I mean, I'm going to say, I know
even
they've not
started Rooney at Northampton.
I know they've not been in the best form, Ed, but I would argue that Pep Guardiola's Manchester City represent more of a threat than Northampton Town.
I don't know. I quite enjoyed them getting spanked by Barcelona the other night. A petty as that is, it was quite amusing.
Did you see Duncan Castle's article on I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know who's paying his bills, but it is amazing to watch. He just wrote this article because Pep said this thing about it's impossible once you go down to 10 men against Barcelona. Yeah.
It was an absolute takedown. It was, I mean, it was nothing, but it was just trash talked him for 900 words or whatever it was.
For no reason.
Other than Mourinho hates him and Duncan Castles is either on Mourinho's payroll or deeply in love with him.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's just extraordinary the face turn he's undergone. Anyway, yeah. So Chelsea at the weekend. That's obviously because it's the League Cup. The City game's less important, even though it's City. But that Chelsea game. What do you reckon is going to be is it going to be very similar to that Anfield game, or will we be a bit more progressive?
Well, I think it will be a little bit. Yeah, I think United will be pretty cautious. I mean, you know, we say that, but that's our view of the sort of basically the second half of the Anfield game. United actually came out of the traps at Anfield at a decent pace and were pressing Liverpool and were taking the game to Liverpool for some of that first half. So, you know, perhaps we'll get that version, but I don't think United are going to be taking huge risks. Both fullbacks won't be bombing forward at the same time. We'll see which fullbacks. I suspect Valencia and Blint. We'll see whether Shaw retains his role? Probably not. And the rest of the team we can pretty much pick, can't we? But I think United will be just a little bit cautious, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, you say we can pretty much pick. Do you think that means Fellaini and Young again? I mean, because I actually think there's a ton of questions, because he could play basically the team he played against Stoke, so 4-2-3-1, Herrera and Pogba behind Mata, or he could with Lingard in the mix, or he could play basically the team he picked against Liverpool, which was very different, with Fellaini and Young both in that starting 11. And also, I'm not at all sure it's obvious whether or not he should play Ibrahimovic, and whether he will.
Well, I think he will. Young, no, I don't. I wonder whether Martial might come back into the side now that he's scored and found some form. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, he probably does like Young's work ethic and defensive responsibilities. I'd expect Rashford will play on the right, and I think we will see Fellaini and Herrera in midfield, with Pogba pushed forward a little bit.
So no Mata, no Lingard for this one?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Lingard plays and Rashford plays on the left. That's one other option. But I think the big question around, do you set up to play through Mata, or do you basically play a 3 in midfield with Pogba, who's definitely not going to play in the same way? I would expect that he plays Pogba slightly further forward and strips the creative midfielder out, which is a big shame, because Mata is playing very well when he comes into that role in central midfield. Yeah,
and we're back to a slightly more normal run of fixtures soon, and back to kind of home games. Like, I think after City it's Burnley, so that's obviously a very winnable one, and we can get back to that kind of somewhat more free-flowing football again, because this is definitely the Mourinho thing. He gives with one hand and takes with the other, doesn't he? You've got these lush four-goal thrillers, followed by slightly drab, potentially 0-0 or 1-0 in either direction game against Chelsea. It'll be interesting as well to see if Conte looks at the game against Liverpool and sets Chelsea up any differently than he otherwise would. They've been playing with the 3 at the back again, right?
Yes, and playing pretty consistently. I mean, a couple of points ahead of United. Definitely an improvement on last season. They're getting more out of Eden Hazard now. And look, starting to look like a Conte side. And
of course, I mean, we haven't even mentioned it. I don't even know really what there is to say about it, but it feels silly not to at least mention the fact that this is Mourinho going back to Stamford Bridge in charge of an English team for the first time. I'm fascinated to see how they are going to respond to him. I'm writing an article for Bleacher Report where I've spoken to a bunch of Chelsea fans and a bunch of United fans about it, and lots of references to it being like an ex being with someone new, or from the United perspective, a lot like being with someone and kind of being aware of their ex. Just like shows how deeply people care about football that analogy came up multiple times in these.
Yeah. What sort of reception does he get? Because he was a hero at Chelsea. And, I guess there weren't too many Chelsea fans complaining that he got sacked, because, it had fallen apart, and this was Jose looking like he personally was falling apart as well. But are they going to boo him because he's now at United? I mean, I guess you'd expect that from Chelsea fans, being as sort of superficial as they are, but he certainly shouldn't get that.
I'm laughing, Ed, because Chelsea fans are just like you and me. They're just like, all fans are the same.
No, they're double plastic, this lot.
I think lots of Chelsea fans were very upset that he got sacked, and there were chants of Jose Mourinho, and there was that guy who held up that banner with the 3 snakes on it, and Hazard, Fabregas and Costa or someone, I can't remember. So I think, and his name was sung at every game for a good long time. I remember they came to United immediately afterwards. That was the game that someone at United was selling Jose Mourinho United scarves. And the Chelsea fans were singing Jose Mourinho's name at that game. And I just don't think they'll boo him for taking the United job, because you can't imagine many of them think he shouldn't have taken the United job because he was once Chelsea manager.
I think a lot of them will think that. I bet if you had a ranking of teams that Chelsea fans thought were their rivals, it would be Spurs 1 and United 2 or something like that.
Right. Oh, maybe so. I guess so, but I will be surprised if he gets a booing. I think he'll get a round of applause when he walks out.
Yeah. So who will they play? It looks like Terry's injured, and they've been playing Cahill, David Lawls, and Azpilicueta at the back recently, haven't they? So yeah, if Terry's, and Terry wasn't necessarily in the team anyway. And they play the two holding players in front, Matic and Kante, who, Kante had a good game against Leicester last week. I don't know whether you saw that. Thought he was pretty good there. But I don't think he's been at Leicester levels throughout this season so far. Maybe he's just finding his feet again.
Maybe he's been at Leicester levels, because Leicester's level's been quite low. It's funny to see them turning it on in the Champions League. Did you see how annoyed Roy Keane was? Roy Keane was so annoyed. Absolutely not having it that Leicester are kind of taking it easy in the league and playing well in the Champions League. Disgusted, and also absolutely disgusted by people being praising Kasper Schmeichel for making a really good last-minute game-winning save. Roy Keane was like, that's his job. That's what he's there for. I'd be having a go if he doesn't make it. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
You can see why Keane probably didn't do so well with not great sides. I mean, it just must have boiled his blood constantly.
Yeah. Why don't you seem to be the absolute pinnacle of the human experience, like I demand as a minimum from myself?
I tell you what, someone who is near the peak at the moment is Diego Costa. He's very good this season and scored quite a few goals as well. He's definitely going to be a threat. Although, feels like the kind of player that Bailly will stick in his pocket.
Blind definitely would.
Yeah.
He's exactly the kind of player that Daley Blind would have on toast.
Yeah, and Hazard scoring again. And I mean, they play a more predictable way, I'd say. I mean, even though they're playing at the back, without a sort of natural playmaker in there, you can pretty much understand the pattern they're likely to play. The wild cards are Moses and Alonso and the wing-back areas, which, isn't exactly the highest quality on either flank there. But, they've got a dangerous front three, but if United do the same thing they did at Liverpool, which is pull in the fullbacks and ask whoever's on the wings to augment when they need to, that feels like a setup United could cope with quite well, because there isn't going to be a lot of subtlety coming from central midfield.
No, absolutely. And I wonder whether, in fact, United should be a little bit braver, a little bit more progressive against that back three, which looks kind of exploitable to me. Looks there are defensive weaknesses in that back three aplenty, aren't there? So, I mean, I would love to see, if we do set up in that really deep manner. As an enormous fan of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, I would like to see him not play in that game. If we do set up like we did against Liverpool, I'd love to see Martial through the middle or Rashford. But I guess that's not going to happen. But I would be fascinated to see if it did. Yeah,
because a lone striker against three defenders is going to be a frustrating day for him. And he's not going to stretch any of those guys with his pace.
No, absolutely. And Cahill doesn't react very well to being stretched either. And nor does Luis, frankly. And Azpilicueta's not a centre-back. So come on, Jose, do it. Play one of the quick lads.
I wouldn't mind seeing Luis stretched on a rack.
Oh, come on. David Luiz is a hero for our times. He's a good man.
Yeah. So after United's victory at Stamford Bridge, comes the derby.
Yeah.
Another derby.
Oh, just a very brief non sequitur. Having just talked about David Luiz being a good man, reminded me of his worst ever moment where he got Rafael sent off. Just a word for the humanitarian hero that is Rafael da Silva. Gave up his wages whilst he was injured at Lyon to a children's charity, because it is true, Rafael is just one of the best humans. So yeah. A brief mention of that. But yes, City.
Top man. And remind me again why he's not at United.
Because somebody thought Louis van Gaal was a good idea. I might have been one of the somebodies. Not that I was responsible for the decision making, but I did think it was a good idea. But it was a bad idea. And Rafael is one of the reasons why.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good pop quiz, isn't it? Who has worse decision-making skills when it comes to picking managers? Paul, you, who picked who liked Louis van Gaal and Big Sam.
So did you.
Yeah.
You liked Louis van Gaal, Ed. Let's not have...
No.
I know you've recommended a podcast on the Patreon backers bit the other week called Revisionist History, but that doesn't mean you could just have revisionist history about how happy you were about Van Gaal.
I can. And you, terrible choices, terrible, versus Fergie.
Fergie, definitely worse than me. Definitely. I made the Van Gaal mistake. I'll admit that freely, happily. I think that was perfectly reasonable at the time. Nobody thought David Moyes was a good idea except Fergie and David Moyes. And actually, David Moyes definitely didn't really think it was a good idea in his heart of hearts.
No, David Moyes definitely did not think it was a good idea.
Also, I would never have recommended Alex McLeish to Aston Villa. Never. So, yeah, no, it's Fergie. Fergie's worse than me.
All right, fair enough. City coming to Old Trafford. And I guess there'll be a decent crowd for this one. Not normally in the, what do they call it these days? The English Football League Cup?
Yeah.
League Cup.
Which is a little bit Brexit as a title, isn't it?
It is. We're just going to call it the Milk Cup because it's always going to be the Milk Cup. I'm kind of looking forward to this one. City not in great form. United in, mediocre
mixed
form. Yeah, mixed form.
Good at home. Very good at home.
Good at home, yeah. Wonder how... I mean, it's been a really tough run, so I can't imagine there won't be quite a few changes. But, it's not as if he can actually bring in a bunch of 18-year-olds because we have such a small squad at the moment, the way he likes to work, of course. So it will be a strong team if a bunch of changes. So, a good chance for United.
The one thing we have got is a load of brilliant 16 and 17-year-olds. Maybe you should just bung them in, play Angel Gomez and DJ Buffon and Tahith Chong. Just make sure City play their academy too. I don't know. No. But I would imagine we'll see a lineup similar to the one that started against Fenerbahce, I guess. The fact that it's Pep and City adds a huge, a huge component to this game, doesn't it? Psychologically, you can't imagine he's going to want them to get an easy win. But then they've got issues about squad rotation and stuff too, haven't they? Their selection's going to be interesting. It dropped Aguero from Barcelona.
Yeah, dropped Aguero for the battering at Barcelona.
Why?
Yeah. Played De Bruyne up front.
Why, Pep? Why would you isolate Sergio Aguero? What are you doing? Why do you always have to do this?
At the risk of sounding a bit Michael Owen, was he just a bit too clever for his own good there?
All right, Robbie Savage. I think he was. I don't know. I don't know how you square that circle, really. Pep is obviously... I know we're previewing a City game, so he's evil and bad and etc. But, he's one of the greats of all time, but he's got a little wobble in him, hasn't he, from time to time? A little decision-making wobble.
Yeah, I'm sure Aguero will be back in the side for the derby, surely. And they'll be back to what looks like a more normal sort of 4-3-3 City side. I wonder how much their confidence is, especially Stones and Otamendi, who were given the run around. I wonder how much their confidence has been knocked back. And at this point, and I'm not sure we would ever have said this, but it's looking like a bad decision to drop Joe Hart.
Yeah, although... there's a sort of narrative around that decision, which is that Joe Hart was dropped because he's not very good with his feet. But I think Joe Hart was dropped because he's not very good. I wonder whether it's actually that he's just... It's not like... Because the prevailing narrative around all the punditry around this is that Joe Hart's a wonderful keeper who's just not good enough with his feet to play in a Pep Guardiola system. But actually, as we saw in the Euros, he's just a very fundamentally flawed goalkeeper. So I think the concept of trying to get an upgrade on Joe Hart to make City a more elite team is perfectly sensible.
Yeah. Although it didn't really take a lot of genius to know that Bravo would struggle in England.
No, you may have
to be honest,
you may have mentioned that pretty early on, Ed. You mentioned that pretty early on.
Well, he likes to flap.
He does, and he hasn't stopped flapping, and they've looked really shaky ever since, really, haven't they?
Yeah, and the only surprise in him getting sent off the other day is that he actually managed to touch the ball instead of flapping wildly and missing it. Unfortunately for him, just outside the area. I have to say that is always quite a harsh rule, isn't it?
No.
Did he definitely deny goals?
He made a save about 6 yards outside the penalty area. There's never been a straighter red in history.
All right. So go on, a couple of predictions for these two games.
All right. I guess it's pretty trivial to predict a 0-0 draw against Chelsea. And then I'm going to buck with recent tradition and be slightly optimistic and predict a 2-1 win to United against City.
All right. Well, I have to say, I think these are two pretty tough games for United. And I'm not sure we put in any great performances against any of the top teams. So I'm going to predict a 1-0 win for United in both games.
It's a superb bait and switch, Ed. Patreon backers, please stay tuned for some bonus content, and we're going to talk about the television programmes of Aaron Sorkin this week. We were going to talk about politics, but I decided I just couldn't face it. If you want to support the show on Patreon and get yourselves a mug or some more bonus content or a beautiful art print, head over to patreon.com/rantcast. Massive thanks to everyone who's done that. And this show, the rest of you, is brought to you very much by the Patreon listeners. We'll be back with another one of these after the City game. Until then, you can hit us up on Twitter. I'm at UTD Rantcast. Ed is at United Rant. Producer Tom is at Tej Sound, TEEJ Sound. We'll see you next week.
See you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.